ain't tryna be cool like you.
Hi, I'm Owie, and today I wanted to talk to you about Fate Extra Last Encore. It's a Netflix original. So, I happen to be a fan of the Fate series. Fate Zero is one of my all-time favorite animes. Fate Apocrypha is definitely pretty high on the list. It is a Netflix original like this one. The studio that made this is Studio Shaft. They've got a decent size lineup, but nothing really impressive besides Madoka Magica. The thing about me talking about this show is that I will reference the other Fate series because there's so much material. There's just a ton of material. It is an expansive universe, and a lot of it doesn't really make sense. The first episode opens with Hakuno's classmates getting brutally murdered. It's a murder scene. But it's in his imagination. He's just a sociopath. Or something. So this world is wacky, okay? So it is on the moon, maybe underwater, in a time loop called Seraph. Despite this world being just all around weird. Just weird in every way you can imagine. This Hakuno dude still has friends. He's got a couple of friends, and we meet them pretty early on. One of them is Shinji Mato, who, if you know who that is, you know to be upset, and you also know shit's about to go down. He was also in Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works. You will also notice Rin Tosaka. Sakura Mato. And several servants throughout, not now, but throughout the show. There's a couple of servants I'm really excited to see. We don't really get a lot of them in other things. One of them, if you don't mind major spoilers compared to the normal amount of spoilers in this, is Gwaine, which I'm pretty stoked about. I actually have Gwaine in my roster on the game. I also have the Robin Hood Summer Edition. Robin Hood's in this too. Just like on the side, just like as like a passive event that happens, there's a chess match.
Checkmate.
Because Hakuno has nothing better to do at this school that's clearly not really like a school, he takes the body first to the nurse and then to the incinerator. The incinerator is an abstract kind of place. I mean, the whole freaking world is abstract. It makes no sense because it's on the moon and underwater and in a time loop. But the incinerator particularly is explaining this is really hard. Is a place where your traumas are exposed, I guess, is a way to put it. – And so what Hakuno sees in the incinerator, he gets a vision of Fukiyuki? I'm not really sure how to pronounce it. No, I've only ever read it. But it's something like Fukiyuki. And the scene of it burning from the end of Fate Zero, I forgot who set it on fire. I feel like Gilgamesh did it. It was probably Gilgamesh. So, because it exposes one's trauma and it shows the burning of the city, it's implied that he was there, that his trauma is of the city burning. So the timelines are kind of weird, but I mean, it's Fate, so the timelines are always gonna be weird. There's a parallel, because of this happen chance that he was in the burning city, there's a parallel between him and Emiya. God, what was Emiya's? Shiro. Emiya Shiro. Because Emiya was also in the burning city. He was saved by the one dude, you know. So after we see the burning city and he dumps the body into the incinerator and he goes back to class, the world resets because it's in a time loop. And part of the world resetting is everyone gets purged. They are commanded to A, kill each other, and then B, whoever is left without having adequately killed someone gets killed by robots and or stone heroic monsters. And in this purge, no surprise, Shinji betrays Hakuno. And if you know anything about Shinji, shit's not surprising. Could have called that. They started running together and I was like, oh, he's gonna stab him. Guess who stabbed him? Shinji stabbed him. Hakuno survives and starts to crawl away. That's not really a problem, except for the fact that he is found by none other than Emiya, but it's not Emiya. It's like a stone shadow spirit version of Emiya. And he's chased by Emiya, who only uses his bow once. I mean, I guess it's not him proper, so he's not at full intelligence capacity, but still, I was kind of like, use your bow, dude. Like, you're an archer. Despite being fully capable with your swords, you're still an archer. Use your bow. But yeah, he gets one good shot in. And then he breaks the floor and sends him down into a hole where he finds a sword. A crimson sword, very large, very ornate, very pretty, very not normal. And of course, you know, in a life or death situation, you go try and get the sword, you're gonna try and get a weapon. And so he goes for the weapon, and he summons Nero. To put it in a very simple way, Nero was the king who watched Rome burn while playing the fiddle. That's the legend of Nero. He was not sane, according to legend. He was not a great person. He was not a caring king. He was selfish and actually crazy. She becomes his servant, but he never actually says, like, yeah, I agree to that. She just kind of like rolls with it, like when she decides, which once again, Nero isn't exactly sane historically, so it's not unexpected that she would just roll with whatever she wants. And they ascend to the next stratum level. It's a level. Immediately in the start of the first episode, we get fan service. One thing that she mentions while she's explaining the Holy Grail War is she says that there are 128 masters competing for the Holy Grail, which is too many. For now, it's no big deal, but I heard that and I was like, oh really? 128 in a world on the moon and maybe underwater that also is in a time loop? Go off, I guess. So they step out of the elevator and Nero is immediately distracted by a festival that is happening. But there's no one in the streets. There's no one in the buildings. It's all empty. So it's almost like a facade. And they end up running into the first servant, the first proper servant that they will encounter.
終わっちまったのさ。聖杯戦争は。今はなき聖杯戦争に乾杯。
Francis Drake. I was surprised by that as a Grand Order player because I was like, oh, Drake it is. All right, cool. Drake tells them what's happening.
町には祭り、酒場には宴。サーバントを売ったマスターは一生遊んで暮らせるようになったんだよ。
Basically, the masters in the first stratum sold their servants for peace. Which, I mean, it's not a bad deal. The Holy Grail War is brutal, and like they would have all died. Francis asks Hakuno if he'll sell Nero, and he says,
売らないさ。
へえ、それはどうして？
ただ生きるために。あんたは黄金を泥に変えるのか。
And the line that Hakuno gives is pretty raw. Like, that's a great line. However, he has no reason to be particularly loyal to Nero, and he has no reason to particularly want to pursue the Holy Grail War. They try to go on their merry way, and they end up being summoned by the mayor of the town,
ようこそ新設海洋都市ケープへ。
Shinji Mato. The same bastard. They're separated, Hakuno and Nero, and kind of like forced to fight. Both very unfair fights. Nero, of course, is a servant, and she's a Saber class, so she can hold her own pretty effectively. Hakuno, however, is just a person, and he's a person going against like 5 or 6 other people, and he ends up getting Julius Caesared.
命を大事にしないやつはさ、死ね。
ああ、目が覚める思いだ。
What happens next is he kind of loses it for a second, and he becomes this really ghoulish looking monster.
無論、戦えるとも。自分が何者か分からなくても。俺はこの憎しみだけで。
That they call
デッドフェイス。
I'm assuming that's important because it's pretty different. Hey there. But it's not really mentioned again in the next episode, so it's probably going to come up later. That's the second episode. The third episode, Rin shows up. Rin Tosaka. Note, they misspelled her name in the show on Netflix. I was annoyed by that. I was like, it's not Tosaka, it's Tosaka. Y'all weird. Y'all wouldn't did all this work, made this whole show, don't make any sense. You didn't bother to get one of the most important characters' name right? Whatever. But yeah, Rin shows up and they escape. Rin tells them that she is the resistance, basically. Not a lot of resistance. Rin convinces them to attack the mayor, Shinji, because in order to progress, they need to compete. They need to take part in combat. The only person who still has a servant on that stratum, on that level, is the mayor, Shinji. She helps them do this whole heisty thing.
命に変えてもあいつは殺させない。だってあいつを利用するのはこの私なんだから。
Something really interesting happens with Rin, and I saw that and I was like, oh, Space Ishtar, which is the single nerdiest thing. I can't even, it's beyond nerdy. But no, it's not a case of Space Ishtar. I'll tell you at the end. Yo, Shinji is OP in this setting. The level is his domain. He has full control, and what he decides to do is flood it. Now, what you'll notice about Francis's ship is that it flies. So there was no need to flood the city that he built and drown all the other masters. But he did. And she comes out guns blazing. She just hits near him with her noble phantasm right out the gate. Francis hits her with a noble phantasm again, and Nira dodges it, and she gets in a swing, and one hit's all it takes to bring down Francis. So part of the reason I think that happened is that Francis didn't want to be there anymore. I'm pretty sure that Francis had enough of Shinji's crap. Maybe that's just projecting because I don't like Shinji. And that's the episode. So what I learned about freaking Rin in the research I did outside the show is that she is a demi-servant in this, which is really cool because it's a better use of demi-servants than MASH. Didn't really care much for MASH. Still don't care much for MASH. Kind of bland. Rin, however, has got some spunk in her, and she's suitable to the role of Lancer. Not to mention her costume is super cute and very cosplayable. Still kind of looks like Space Ishtar to me, but that's cute too. I'm here for it. Totally love it. Another character that's worth discussing is Hakuno. I was thinking that like he could be the manifestation of hatred from the students who were continuously killed in the time loop. Kind of like how Jack the Ripper was the manifestation of fear and malice from the women and children who were killed in the industrial era, if I remember properly. There's a very complicated set of scenes. Fate Apocrypha is very interesting. However, he has the distinct memory of the fire, right? So he must be like a person, unless it's the anger from what happened in the fire, not with the students, or maybe it stacks. But I don't know, it's just not really likely. So I'm just not really interested in him. I'm not really fond of this show. I wouldn't recommend it. Instead, if you're interested in this type of show, or any of the concepts or characters I've mentioned, please just watch Fate Zero, and then watch Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works, and then watch Fate Apocrypha, all of which you can find on Netflix. There's also another one that I really like. It's kind of its own thing. It's called The Case Files of Lord Elmaloy II, who you may or may not recognize. That one's not on Netflix. I believe it's on... Those are all so much easier to appreciate even the Lord Elmaloy case files, they kind of run a little bit slow, but they're very interesting. The world is actually fleshed out for the first time. You get to actually see the purpose of the mages take part. Because there's like this concept of like the reason why mages seek the Holy Grail is that they want to find the root of all magic. But you don't really see that in the other shows. Quick plug, this is my friend's makeup line. I will link to her Etsy page down below. Please support her. She is a small businesswoman and a very good person. But yeah, watch any 4 of those instead of this is my recommendation. I can't recommend this show. It doesn't make any sense, and without having seen all the other fates, you wouldn't even get half of what's going on, much less any of what else is going on, because none of it makes sense. Even knowing the series, even knowing all the characters, it's still kind of absolute nonsense. And even if you've seen the shows without having played the game, you wouldn't know who Francis Drake is, so you have to have a really intense Rolodex of knowledge, and not everyone is me, and I just can't recommend it, because even I don't like it, and I have the Rolodex. There are things that I think look interesting. For instance, Gwaine. I would love to see Gwaine's character. That would be very interesting to me. There's also something that I caught a glimpse of in an AMV. And I'll link to it down below. And there's like an Alice in Wonderland arc, and it looks really cool. And I have a theory that I want to see if it's true. So do you know how I mentioned Jack the Ripper and how they're the manifestation of the anger, malice, and general fear of the people who died in the Industrial Revolution? So my theory is that Alice is the manifestation of either abused or neglected and or objectified children. Because if you know anything about the writer of Alice in Wonderland, he wasn't exactly not a pedophile. And Alice is kind of portrayed as a doll, and definitely is not okay. Yeah, so I might watch that. I might watch the rest of it if you guys want me to. But yeah, that's it. Sorry this makeup look didn't turn out great. They can't all be winners. Asidum Sabati is that... Yes, honey? That's just the way the cookie crumbles, okay? It's just wacky. This house is wacky. We know the well, I know the context. You now know the context. I know what a demi-servant is already. Like, I'm not gonna be surprised whenever it's... Reen. It appears to be the manifestation of... Oh god. I can't even explain. Do I like his ass? No. Oh. So if all you want is fan service, I'm not here to help you. This is not your channel. I'm not your guy. I'm not your gal. Fun fact. I'm agender, so that's even funnier. I need to finish Babylonia.